Hi, I thought I would do a quick video to kind of give you some examples of really good essays that I've had come in over the last semester. And I've asked these individuals if I could share it. They've given me permission. I don't want you to embarrass them by any way, but these are just really good examples, and I think it gives you guys some feedback and some starting point for your own essays in week 12 and also for the essay required at our final. So these will be good things to study as a review. So anyway, let me tell you about this essay. The thing I liked about it was content. And you know, I like the fact that it's very orderly with issues being highlighted, the main idea here, and then you go into the bulk of the paragraph is talking about that main idea. So it's very easy for me to assimilate and to read and to understand. Then when she comes down here to her action plan, she gives it in a very nice, orderly 6-point way. And then she makes a decision, which is what we're supposed to do. And then she provides her own unique, obviously this was from the case itself, but when we talk about cash flows, you know, it helps me reference what she's talking about in the paper. She'll reference it, like she'll say, see Exhibit C and Exhibit A. And so that's perfect documentation and evidence citing. Then Exhibit B, again, she goes through here, gives me the alternative options as they sit. And I like that. I you know, a lot of times people just give me what the alternatives for their solution, but not both alternatives. And so I like it when I see both alternatives. And then here again, she's come up with some of her very own data or her own tables. These weren't given to her, but she did it to solve her problem and to be able to cite evidence for her recommendations. So this is a perfect paper, pretty close to perfect as you get. Another one that I really liked for content is this one. And again, you can see these aren't, sometimes I've asked you guys to split it out and make it, you know, more shorter paragraphs. And some of these paragraphs are a little longer than I like, but I do, I like that they're organized into columns or sections so that I can easily know what I'm reading about here, and then I move over here. Another thing I really liked about Carrie's and Sean's is that it's so comprehensive. They didn't just answer one or two things that they felt they could be doing better or that they hadn't done right. They took almost everything that the case presented and they talked about each one individually. And they've come up here with their summaries, which were decision-based, and they prove why they can say that with their own unique exhibits. And Sean's really good with his exhibits. He's not afraid of using exhibits and coming up with his own numbers and making his own assumptions. And because of that, he can make good decisions, or at least be very persuasive in the decisions he's made. And you can see here, this is his own, he made this up, his own cash flow scenario. So that's really good. So those are two really good on content and complete, comprehensive approach to a question. So this one, again, maybe lacks some of the organization that I like. The paragraphs were small enough, though, that it didn't overwhelm me. But what I really loved about what Tisha did here is she came up with her own solution. It was almost completely unique because she looked into pay-per-click advertising. And so as she made recommendations about what they should do going forward, she proved it with her own exhibits, and I love that. And so I just wanted to show you the creativity that she used here and how deeply she dove into her recommendations and proving those recommendations. And you see here with she came up with what machinery would be good, and all of that goes into what her cash flows she feels are capable and what the company's capable of doing right now with cash flow requirement or limitations. So that's a really good one. One of the things I really like about Pete's papers is that he incorporates his exhibits right into it. And so that when I read the paragraph and I find out what he's saying or his recommendations, he immediately supports it right here. And for me, being a table lover and seeing, you know, this is more intimidating. It's more intimidating for me to read this and extract information than to just skip that whole paragraph and come down here and look at it and then go back to the paragraph. So that's usually why I like these inserted into the papers, because I would usually go to that first and then read what their summary or analysis of this is, what they've interpreted from this. And so that's something I really like about it. I like the color. I like the significant amount of evidence that Pete uses in his papers. He usually will put everything into some kind of a quantitative as well as qualitative analysis. So he does a super good job quantifying everything that he wants to say. And because he does it strictly through that, I mean, look, he's come up with all of his own tables here using just the information that was given to him and maybe some of his own assumptions. But he's able to make good decisions because of that. And anyway, you see right here, if I were reading this, Carbon 6 is a great company with a good idea. John should go forward with confidence, but learn in the business, everything should be documented. So anyway, I like this because when he says this, you're just like, yep, he can do it, because look at all this evidence he cited. Look how he showed me what's possible. Look at this bottom line here. And because he's so good at his evidence, these numbers have a lot of credibility and pull a lot of weight. So that's another perfect example of a great essay. This is one I really love, how easy to digest. We call it accessibility. This one has a lot of accessibility. You look at it, the paragraphs are small. They've got the bolded, what would you call that, titles of every paragraph. They've got these little action plans defined in numerical order and conclusions that are easily accessible. And then they've got these great colorful exhibits at the end. Now, they don't have as many exhibits as others have had, but I love the fact that it's so accessible. They've incorporated numbers into the paragraphs, and they cite these as kind of a way to test or to, the evidence that I like to have. But there is plenty of numbers within this as well to understand it. But again, they are addressing everything in the case. They do it in a well-organized, laid-out way with easy-to-access information. So another really good example of how to do a good essay. Here's another one, again, with the short paragraphs, the nice labeling or titling, the nice approach to each issue, the good reference to the exhibits, and a great, sometimes we forget to give solutions or decisions, and I like it when those solutions are given in a way that's very easy to understand, and exhibits are used. So this was a really good one, very organized. Again, some of their own, this to me is so much more accessible. I look at that and I get exactly what that means. And so I love good creative exhibits, and this one's a really good example of that. Another good example. We've had a lot. So as we get ready for this case study or this case-based essay on operating the business model, I want you to see down here in the bottom, after this is the instructions, right? And so down here, I kind of gave you a feed forward. It's a new phrase I've heard lately about feedback. So I give this to you prior to, so that you can kind of know what I'm going to be looking for and be grading you on. It's kind of like having the rubric in advance, but instead of it being strictly on our standard rubric, I thought I'd go into a little more detail. So I'm going to be looking for that you use the business model terminology and that you understand each areas. Now, I've given you examples of things that I would like to see, but how you interpret that or how you apply it is going to be unique, and everybody will have a unique perspective. So I didn't go into a lot of detail on what I want, but these are just some ideas using the business model of how you could structure this paper to answer the question, to present the facts that may be persuasive to our venture capitalist Ray. But it's using Cloudflare again. And so what we went over in our group assignment last week will be very helpful to you if you can remember those notes. But use those examples that I've just showed you, and I will email them out. But also you can look at this for your feed forward rubric on how I'll be grading. So good luck. And the reason why I'm taking a little time on this is because your final will also be a similar essay. And so let's work on our essay skills and get those up. Thanks, guys.